Hello again. Today we're going to finish up talking about the difference quotient, and I've gone ahead and given you the formula we're going to be using there today. And one of the key pieces for us today is going to be to talk about h, and how do we find it, and what does it mean. All right, so if you remember, what we've really been doing is we've been talking about finding 2 points on a curve, connected in with a secant line, and then finding the slope of that secant line, which has been requiring us to know things like an x1, y1, and an x2, y2. We needed that information so we could find slope. All right, so we need to find h, and it's related to all of that. All right, so first thing we do is this x1 point, we're just going to call it x. And this point here, the second point, the x2, instead of calling it x2, what it really can be called is x plus h, meaning that h is actually the distance between the 2 points. So to find h, what we're going to do is take the x2 number and minus the x1. That'll be how far are we moving, how far apart away from left to right are these dots. Right? And something else that's going to come up today a couple of times that's going to be important is your ability to do some FOIL multiplying, some basic things like taking something to the second power. All right, there's a pattern involved in this, and again, if you know the pattern, it works really great. And the pattern ends up being a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Essentially, where it's coming from is the a plus b, you know, how FOIL works, and it's another a plus b. When you do first times first, that's where you get the a squared. All right, now when you are doing your outsides and insides, in your outside term, a times b, your 2 inside terms, which is another a times b, you end up having 2 a times b multiplies going on there. And then the last part, of course, is when you do last times last, that's your b squared. All right, so again, it's a pattern that's useful to know. We're going to see it in our work today. All right, so here's what your work actually looks like. And I only have a couple of these because they're a little time consuming, kind of like yesterday. All right, and the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and find h. Ooh, a little bit thicker than I wanted the ink to be. All right, so h. To find h, what I have to do is take my x2 minus x1, and that comes from here. This is an interval. It's not an actual coordinate, it's an interval. It says on the x-axis, we're going to start looking at everything at 1 and stop looking at 3 halves. So there's your x2, the 3 halves, and your x1. If I minus those, I get 1/2 or 0.5. It's up to you whether you use fractions or decimals. The problem starts with fractions, so I'm going to use fractions throughout, but again, you could use decimals, it'd be no big deal. All right, now, start messing with that fraction. The first chunk of the fraction is the ugly part. So we have to find the f of x plus h. All right, and that means take the original function here, and everywhere there's an x, switch it to x plus h, and we know h is 1/2. So instead of x squared, I get x plus h squared, and then plus 1. And this is where we have to do that FOIL multiply. And again, I said there was a shortcut. I could just take the first term, give it the exponent 2. Then if I multiply each term, 1/2 times x, and then I want 2 of those, that would be 1, half plus half. And then the last part here is my last term, 1/2 squared. 1/2 times 1/2 makes 1/4. If you're using decimals, you'd have 0.25 right there. All right? Now, the next step is we want to take this f of x plus h, and we want to subtract the original statement. So f of x plus h, subtracting f of x, the original statement. All right, so let's clean this up. First off, x squared minus x squared, those are going to cancel. The plain x is the only one in the term, so there's going to be part of my answer. And then numerical, 1/4 minus 1. 1/4 minus 1 is going to be negative 3/4. How pretty. All right. Next, we want to take all of that information there and divide it by h, which is 1/2. And we all know that we can't divide fractions inside of fractions, so if you remember the rule, we are going to keep the first one the same. It's a binomial, so I'm putting in parentheses. Change to multiply, and then flip the second fraction. And hopefully you know 2 over 1. We can just be better writing it as 2. If I FOIL multiply out, I'll be done. 2 times x, and then 2 times negative 3/4, which will make negative 6/4, which reduces to negative 3/2, or negative 1.5. All right, there's your answer. So a little messy, definitely some tricky algebra going on in there, but nothing, nothing ridiculous. This is AP Calculus, so you're expected to know how to do most of this stuff. You might make some mistakes, that's okay. But give it a shot. Again, there's 2 or 3 of these to do today. If you get stuck, you know where to find me. Good luck.